Well, good evening. Hello, everybody, and how nice to be back on Instagram. Oh my goodness, how is everybody coping with this heat? I mean, what a day, right? I don't know if it's as hot as Hades where you guys are. Hello, hello. It is just ridiculous. I mean, I am from South Africa. I like me a little bit of heat, but this has been ridiculous. We are completely dying of heat in our house, and putting my makeup on was interesting tonight because it was like sliding off. So honey, I have been beaten to the gods, as they say. Hello Abby, so nice to see you. Hello, hi. Just been crazy hot. Anyway, I am so excited for tonight. The absolutely incomparable, astoundingly talented Harriet Thorpe is going to be with us in a second. You might even be here, Harriet, are you? Let me see if I can see you yet. Not quite. She's done many of these, so we should be all right. And we're going to be talking about her amazing career, which has spanned pretty much everything. She's done everything from classical theatre, Shakespeare, performed at the National Theatre in the UK, which that's Harriet now. I'm just bigging you up, Harriet, so bear with me and then I'll be right with you. So yes, a career that's just been extraordinary. She's done everything from performing on the National, which is sort of the pinnacle of British theatre, tons of musicals, Mamma Mia, Wicked, Les Mis, you name it. Plus, of course, the legendary Ab Fab and the iconic British sitcom, The British Empire, and so much more. Calendar Girls. So there's lots to talk about and squeeze in an hour. And I am just going to add now, so we should be fine. Yes, so that is what we're going to be talking about tonight. And just a nice, oh, there she is. Oh, darling, with a fan.
I had to, darling. I'm sorry. I know it's theatrical, but it's effing hot. And I need to keep cool.
Absolutely. I was going to say, if ever there was a day where moist was the word
du jour, it's today, dear.
Oh, look at you looking so gorgeous. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to see you and be here.
Oh, it's such a delight to have you. I'm just going to turn this up because I'm struggling to hear you a little bit.
Oh, darling, let me make sure I'm turned up as well.
Yes, turn yourself up. There we go.
Always, dear. One second. Yeah. One moment, caller.
You look marvellously sort of, it looks very exotic, like you're in sort of some fantastic Casbah or something.
Yes, you know me so well. Yeah.
Are you in a caftan?
Yes, darling. No, darling, not with these tits. No.
Oh, I just love that. Right, well, we get an hour, as you know, on Instagram.
Heaven.
They're quite strict about timing, so we're just going to leap on in.
Get on.
Tell me, where were you born and brought up?
I was born in London, and I was brought up in London initially until I was about 8, and then we moved to LA because of my mum's work. And so we were in LA for my sister, myself, and my dad and my mum. We were in LA for 2 consecutive years. Went to school in Beverly Hills. And
oh my God!
I know.
90210.
Seriously. And then we kind of toed and froed really. And so I adore LA. It promises everything. I don't know that it delivers, but I want to be there all the time. I want that endless sunshine and full of hope. But I also love London because I'm a Londoner.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you're being very modest because you said your mum's work took you guys there.
Yeah.
Explain to the viewers who may not know who your mum was and why that was.
My mother was a writer, novelist, and she wrote a very important book in the 1960s, which is now known as a gay classic, called The Leather Boys, about working class boys who fell in love. It was the Brokeback Mountain of its time, when it was still illegal to be gay. And they were biker boys who would go up the North Circular to the Ace Cafe. And it was Rita Tushingham, Dudley Sutton. It was her novel, and then it was made into a movie, and she wrote the movie. And I remember being at Pinewood. I must have been about maybe 5 or 6 or something. And Roger Moore was there making The Saint, the series. Mm-hmm. Cliff Richard was there doing Summer Holiday. And I remember I was in awe of Cliff Richard. And I was chatting to him, and I sat on his knee and put my arm around him. I was 5. And I said to my mother, you cannot wash this top. I love him so much.
Oh,
But
even
there's a
at
childhood
5.
memory.
I
5.
mean, what an extraordinary time to have been there, because it was all sort of, I mean, the studio system
Mm.
obviously had gone, but it
Yeah,
was still such a kind of elegant, glamorous time in Hollywood.
totally.
And
We went to
do you
stay
have
with,
any,
yeah,
sorry,
no, I was just going to say, we went first to our cousins, Maurice Stoloff, who was musical director of Columbia Pictures. And he was one of the people who found Frank Sinatra, and Lucille Ball lived up the road, and he had 3 Oscars. And we went to stay with Elsa and Morris, and yeah, in Bel Air. And yeah, that's where we stayed to begin with. And then we had an apartment on Roxbury Drive, Beverly Hills. And
oh my
it was,
God,
I
that's so close
know,
to where I used to live.
no kidding. Oh my God.
No, seriously. Yeah, very
Really.
close.
But it's so, I went from a North London state primary school where everything was cooked until it was grey for lunch. And then I went to El Rodeo, which is on Wilshire Boulevard. And I remember we were doing an Easter parade and all sorts of things, had lovely hats and things that we made. And they had an ice cream machine in the school, and they had fried chicken and chocolate milk. You know, from an English state primary school with food that I mean, it's just a shocker,
Yeah.
to Beverly Hills sort of excess. It was mind blowing at 8 years old. It was bizarre.
Yeah, I can imagine. Literally the Willy Wonka factory, and yes,
Seriously,
I made it.
seriously. We got on the yellow school
You,
bus every day, and yeah,
oh, and the post boxes. I remember that was my first thing when I got to America. I was like, I want to see a proper mailbox,
yeah,
and like exactly that, the yellow school bus.
yeah.
Um,
It just seeing the Hollywood sign. It's the most moving thing because it's the history of the cinema is so extraordinary.
mhm.
But you know, Robert Altman's film The Player. When
Yes,
you see that movie, that's all you need to know. It's fantastic.
exactly. Well, speaking of Robert Altman, your mum wrote a screenplay for him, didn't she?
Yeah, she did that Cold Day in the Park with Sandy Dennis. Yeah, and again, all the families mixed together. We'd go round to Bob's and we'd be in the pool and then we'd have a barbecue and yeah, it was just yeah, it was fantastic. And my mum sadly passed away last year, but that they were friends with Bob and Catherine and the kids, and for always until they passed, unfortunately. But absolutely, my dad's still around. He's amazing. He's 94, still driving. He was an actor as a young boy when he was 14, because you left school at 14. He joined Italia Conti and went on a tour of playing a child in Where the Rainbow Ends, which was a show, and toured
Yes.
all the way through the war, and then went into the stars in Battle Dress, then went to RADA, and yeah, and it was extraordinary.
So the arts were pretty much in your life from a really, really, really early age. You were surrounded by these extraordinary influences.
Yeah.
And when you graduated high school, you ended up going to
Well,
the Royal Ballet for a while, or was that?
That's right. Well, Royal Ballet School.
Yes.
Tatiana Rybushinska, who was one of the Russian baby ballerinas, and David Lachine were married, and they had a dance school in LA. And I trained with her, and I also trained in London at the Erdang Academy. Mm-hmm. And then I went at 16. So we were kind of toing and froing. Mum did a movie every year. And my sister and I, Matilda, she's also an actress, we kind of grew up playing on the backlots. And but when I was 16, I'd come to the Royal Ballet School. And by then my dad was ballet critic of the Evening Standard, which he was for about 25 years. And so, yeah, I was at the Royal Ballet School. And then my tits grew. And they were...
And that's the one thing you can't have as a ballerina.
Darling, you can't have them. The tutu doesn't work. You can't get into it. And so I then I got into Rambert at the same time, Rambert School at the same time. So I rang Rambert and said, look, it's not working out, tits. And they said, well, come over here. So I was at Rambert School for 2 years. And then I realized that I wasn't, in dance, there's a perfection. It is about an imagery and an art form. And my body wasn't that. And yet the feeling inside was still to perform. And I think
Absolutely. Yeah. Harriet, I'm going to stop you there for a second. Can you move closer to your, I don't know everyone else's seat, but you're very pixelated and it keeps breaking up. Your stories are so fascinating. I don't want to miss a second of it. And at the moment, we're not getting you in your full spectacular glory. Or is that just on my side, guys? Can somebody let me know if I've had this a lot with Instagram. Oh, now somebody's saying they can't hear you. I'll tell you what, I'm going to jump out of the conversation with you and then I'll get you back in. Yes, I'll be. And this is why we go to YouTube, chats. So let's try this one more time. And hopefully now it'll be a bit better. I don't know why this always happens. It's so irritating. So yes, I understand. Pixelated and silent. So we're reconnecting for everyone who's just joined us now. Because Harriet was telling us about her absolutely amazing life thus far, which if you have missed any of it, there she is, ready to go. Let's see, is this better now? Oh, no. Oh, Lordy love us. Can you hear me? Sort of like you're in slow motion, Harriet. No, it's breaking up quite badly. No, so yes, absolutely. Revenge on Instagram for going to YouTube. I think so. Yeah, your picture, I think, has. Well, she's jumped off again. So, why? Right. Well, hang tight, everyone, because we might just be switching over to YouTube shortly, unless we can get this sorted. I don't understand. It must be something to do with the time of day. I was hoping that because Harriet is also in London,
I'm back.
It would be better. Yay, you're back. Oh,
thank you. Any better?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Better.
Am I pixelated? I was thinking maybe the pixelation was a kind of a wonderful sort of, I don't know, screen that would make me look 20 years younger.
You don't need to look 20 years younger. You look magnificent. But no, it was more this.
Okay. So am I back now?
Yes,
no.
You're back and resplendent. So we're going to just carry on where we were.
Okay.
So ballet was not in your future because your boobs grew, which
my tits,
splendid
yeah,
as they are.
Yeah.
And then you ended up going to Central Drama School.
I did, yeah.
Where
in 1979.
Right.
And yeah. And I was on the acting course, and Dawn and Jen were on the teacher's course. And there was kind of a mad rule that, and we also had a speech therapy course. And it was in the days where, in my year, there were 8 girls and 17 boys. And that was as big as the year was. Now there's 3 times that amount per year. But nobody ever spoke to the speech therapists. And occasionally you'd speak to the teachers, but I was always chatting to everyone. And Dawn and Jen and I were chatting, and we had a lovely friend, Scotty, and we used to shriek in the foyer and talk in the foyer because there was a theatre, the Embassy Theatre was there as well. Yeah. So so we were always pals from the get-go. And sorry, hot now.
No, please. I would as well. I feel like I'm, sort of.
Should I do some for you? There you are.
I'm going, yes. Oh, that's good. That's good. Thank you.
and so we were friends from the beginning, and there were some rather tedious end of term shows, cabarets, school cabarets, in-house, and the actors would all be there in terrible cravats, strumming a guitar and singing awful songs they made up. And Dawn and Jen were a sensation. They did the Patsy Sisters, and were always so brilliant and so wonderful. And we've been friends since then. Yeah. Just 40 blah years.
I was just going to clarify for anybody watching, Dawn and Jennifer, or Dawn and Jen, is Jennifer Saunders and Dawn French, of course. Do you remember the kind of first conversation you had with Jennifer at all? Or I mean, did you like each other instantly or not?
Oh yeah, we all got on immediately. We just were having a laugh, because that's what's the point if you don't do that?
Absolutely. And did you think pretty early on, did you realize that there was something quite special about both of them, actually?
I mean, you never knew because, yes, instantly, and they were always far and away the most brilliant comedians, you know, in that genre. That unfortunately they didn't get to perform all the Shakespeares and things we did, but they were always brilliant. And there was that spark. And again, that's when that sort of new comedy started. And I remember leaving and going to my first job, which was at the Nuffield Theatre in Southampton, which sadly has just gone under into liquidation because of this terrible pandemic. And they were all there, and Aid and Rick and Nigel, and everyone was they were doing comedy shows in a tent. And I'd finished my show at the Nuffield and went to watch them. And so, yeah, I mean, they were always quite brilliant. But you never know, because they were doing the teacher's course and you think, well, this is what they're doing now, but is it going to be crushed later? Yeah. Because everyone was doing that. Well, you know, there were certain rules. You'd never do a commercial. You'd never do a soap. You wanted only to do the Royal Shakespeare Company, who have never employed me, but I've got over that.
But they're lost, darling.
Thank you, darling. But it was always that's what one aspired to. And so the idea that you'd be doing something other wasn't even on the cards for people. Yeah. But that new wave of comedy, and they're brilliant, all of them, their inspirational breakthrough talent, changing the face of comedy, and for women, you know, was just totally was amazing and deserved. Well, I mean,
one of the things that was absolutely staggering when I was looking at your CV, which is so impressive and so varied across the board. I mean, truly everything from Shakespeare, the classical texts, the national, you know, Hollywood films, sitcoms, just extraordinary. And one of your first jobs upon leaving drama school was Happy Families.
It was. It was. And but that was later on. The first job I did with them was Girls on Top. Oh, and I remember...
sorry, I didn't realise that came first.
Yeah. Okay. And I remember being in the queue in the canteen at the National and Jen ringing me and saying, we've got this idea and... you know, would you be interested? Helen and me, you know, and I have done a lot as a kind of double act, and we'd be supporters of Dawn's and would you have to like, oh God, that sounds amazing. And that was kind of my first telly, really.
An amazing cast. I mean, Ruby Wax, Dawn French.
Tracy Ullman.
Yes, Tracy
Ullman.
Hello. But like almost from the get-go, Harriet, all those jobs in the beginning, there were things, you know, the Happy Families, the pedigree of actors, Hugh Laurie, Stephen Fry, Rick Mail, Sandy Togsvig, you know, all these early shows were just, it was such a golden time. Somebody saying, yes, of course, and Helen Lederer too, of course.
It was that 80s when, again, all that sort of imagery of women and excess and, you know, and Jen and I would watch Dallas and dress up as those characters all the time.
Who were you always?
Well, I was always Joan, obviously.
Of course.
And she
so
had
that
Jen
must have
Flom,
made it into a sketch or two.
Yeah, I mean, you know, all the things we just had such fun, and you know, it was just because we were friends, and you know, it just made it such a great time.
But again, I was sort of, as I said, I feel like it was such a golden age of comedy, and everyone from Lenny Henry, you know, all the names I've already mentioned. I wondered if it was like a really supportive environment, or was it quite competitive, or were you all kind of going up the ranks together and so supporting one another?
I think it's interesting because people are ambitious, which doesn't mean competitive, but they're ambitious. But actually, my experience of it was supportive and friendly and about friendship and sharing things and being creative. It wasn't, oh, have you seen what she's doing? You know, it wasn't, it was the antithesis of that, which is why their generosity and all of us doing stuff together all the time was so wonderful.
And such an amazing thing too, because I think you all realized you were changing kind of the face of comedy. You know, everyone from like Smith and Jones, and you were in Allo Allo and Fry and Laurie. I mean, just, you know, endless fun. And of course, Ab Fab eventually, which we'll get to. And that's so lovely to hear that it was a really supportive environment and kind of nurturing as well.
Absolutely.
Were you offered roles by your mates, or did you have to kind of audition afresh every time?
No, I think mostly. I remember Jen and I were on holiday. The families were on holiday together. We were in France, and she said, I have an idea, and you know, it's a mother with a difficult daughter. And I said, I could play your daughter. I'll strap my tits down. It was fine. She said, no, you can't. So, okay. but just talking about it. So it was just creative, friendly, supportive, wonderful time.
Yeah. How amazing. And you worked pretty much consistently in telly. We're going to get back to your stage career shortly. Like from the moment that you left drama school, from the moment you kind of hit the boards or the TV screens, you hit it running and worked and worked and worked. And then along came the British Empire.
Yeah.
Tell us about your audition for Carol.
Well, originally I went in, I was asked to go in to play Mrs. British, and I read for that. And then the director, Mike Stevens, said to me, could you actually try this character? And as I looked at it, I remember thinking, it said Carol was the receptionist and that she cried all the time.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh, that's really interesting. And I also remember thinking, crying all the time is quite boring. So trying not to cry is far more interesting, you know, as a sort of sound and imagery. And also she brought her children to work, which is something that's only recently happened in real life.
Yeah.
Carol kept her baby in the drawer, and she kept it a secret for a while. And then she later on had the British twins, which actually were Mr. British's, if you followed the series, because both he and his wife and myself were in a tiger suit. Anyway, we'll let that go in a fancy dress. But she then had twins. But I remember reading and thinking, how would this person be? She cries, or I don't want to cry too much. So that thing when you're trying not to cry, your voice really, sometimes it's really high and then it's really low because you're trying to control it. So I thought I'd do that. And then I remembered a teacher when I was a little girl in school, Miss Branton, and she was so glamorous and everyone wanted to be her. And so, you know that thing when a teacher says to you, and now, who knows the
Yes.
And she loves Mr. British, so I couldn't say it fast enough. So I say, yes, she couldn't say, yes, Mr. What? She loved him so deeply. So that combination of, yes, Mr. said, not trying not to cry, was how her voice arrived. And that was it, really.
But so was that on the page, all that stuff, or was that stuff you brought into the audition? Because I kind of, you know, the cry, they said she's always crying, and you're absolutely right. It's so much more interesting seeing somebody trying not to cry.
Yeah. So no, I think it's a combination, which is always with those creative things. And like in Ab Fab, we started playing these characters, and I played Fleur, and she was very upper class, and I gave her a really weak R, didn't pronounce her R's. And then Jen started writing things with lots of R's in it. So I could really around the bag of rock, you know, so that I would sound like that. So again, it's a creative process. Well, you know, you do the same thing. It's
exactly.
And you find the voice, you find the look, you find whatever it is. I never play me. I always play some crazy nutter. Thank God.
Oh, but so much more interesting playing crazy nutters.
So much more interesting. Always, if it's Shakespeare, I'm either some old tart, or I used to be a young tart, now I'm an old tart, or I'm an evil. Thank you, darling. Or I'm an evil queen poisoning the king. You know, it's that.
Yes, but I love that.
Yeah, me too.
You know, why be good when you can be bad?
Exactly.
Is what I've said.
Brava.
So British ends up running for 7 seasons, which, you know, today with streaming and stuff, well, 7 seasons is still pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that was quite unheard of then. And that must have changed things substantially for you, because the show was a huge hit. Did it? In the sense that you suddenly felt more screen time, but quite a lot more responsibility?
I think Bond's just so thrilled to have. I mean, we never knew from year to year, is it going to do another year? Is it going to do another year?
Yeah.
You never kind of knew. But one was so grateful to have the ability to go on and develop and have more crazy times with these wonderful characters. And Pippa and I had our daughters at the same time, and, you know, we were both pregnant and on series, must have been series 6, I think. So, you know, it was an amazing time, again, of kind of unity, and to have the opportunity, as you know, working more than one season with people is so wonderful, because you have a family.
Yeah, and you get a chance to absolutely grow and nurture that character.
100%.
You know, and I think that the way that's gone down in sort of sitcom history, which is, you know, what an amazing thing. I worked with Chris Barry on Red Dwarf, and he's got such a lovely, lovely energy. And I wondered, like, did you have a lovely time with him as well? Did you know each other before?
Yes, I think I'd worked with him. It may have been on Happy Families, actually. We did something together. I can't remember, but we knew each other. Um, uh, yeah, and we all just had a laugh because we're
Yeah.
so lucky to be there. And I think the diversity of what we do, and you do the same, you know, we do musicals, we do film, we do telly. It's just saying, yes, I love working. I
Yeah.
love it. And I don't mind. I just say yes.
Well, I think you've done pretty much the kind of seemingly impossible thing here, and particularly, I think,
Mm.
in the UK. And I feel like I can say this because I'm a foreigner. You know, I'm from South Africa, so I
That's
can
right.
say this.
I know.
And I think that it's quite difficult because it's much better than it was, but there is still quite a lot of snobbery if you're sort of a musical theatre actor who's trying to get into drama, if you're a
100%.
classical actor trying to get into musicals, and you have somehow, well, you're extremely talented, that's one way, but you've
Can you be my agent, please? Actually, I have a
Certainly,
lovely
honey,
agent. It's fine.
ring
Yeah.
an endorsement from me. Because I was going to say, looking at your theatrical CV, it's equally as impressive. And you started out in rep, which I don't know, maybe we don't really have any young people watching this, but like it's something, I mean, even, and I'm not young anymore, but I've done rep seasons, but I didn't come up through the ranks of rep. But my late father-in-law talked about it endlessly. And I just think it must have been the most extraordinary experience to have. Tell us a little bit about your kind of experiences in rep.
Well, it's an amazing thing to go and read a play, do it, you rehearse for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then you start the play and you start the show. And then as you have 2 or 3 nights when you're just doing the show, and then you start reading the new show for the next 3 weeks. So you're always doing something. And we did a Shakespeare, a musical, a restoration comedy, a panto, you know, Tennessee Williams. I mean, again, it was a normal 6 months contract. That's what you did.
Yeah.
And you learnt, and you learnt to going wrong. You learn by making mistakes, and it's fine. And that's the deal.
What were some of the most calamitous experiences you had during that time on stage?
Well,
I am sweating like some sort
of me too, dear. I can barely breathe.
I can't say that.
I've got my powder. There you are.
Oh,
quick powder.
I'm trying to look like I'm glowing, but it's not working.
No, you look divine. You look divine as always, darling. No, I think there are a couple of calamitous things which I remember, and that was in Southampton doing a Rockabilly Son of Heaven, it was called, and it was a kind of rock and roll musical, and for some reason it was obviously a cowboy thing, and they brought a live Shire horse on stage every night as a kind of, now you know
who thought
that
was a good idea.
you know at some point that tail's going to go up and out comes the manure.
Yes.
And true to form, yeah, we did. Lumps of steaming hell. And everyone was like, what do we do? What do we do? I mean, it's hysterical. I mean, those moments you are such bliss because it's a shared experience.
Not over the horse shit.
Yeah, pretty much, dear. Yeah. And it was just, because there's no hiding it, darling. And it was a huge horse.
Yeah.
So that was a memory. I was also at Regent's Park. We were doing Cymbeline, and I was playing the evil queen, poisoning her king to lift her son into fame and fortune. And it was a big court scene, and I knew I had the next lines in this court scene, but I knew it wasn't plot, and I knew I didn't remember them. And I remember looking around thinking, oh, what the fuck am I going to do? And then these Shakespearean words came out of my mouth. I don't know where from. I just made it up. And people looked at me and I went, and therein lies the end. Meaning, we talk because I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. And they do, you know that thing on stage when you go wrong, people just go, okay.
Yes.
And then they get on. So making up Shakespeare was a joy.
Yeah. It is the weirdest thing though, isn't it? When that happens, when your brain just goes, I've just zoned out.
And you know it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we've both done Mamma Mia. You know it. You know the words. How can we forget them? And you think,
I know.
when you're doing 8 shows a week, you don't know which show you're in.
I was going to say, I took over from you. We've shared 2 jobs, actually.
Yeah.
Tanya in Mamma Mia,
Yeah.
and Fräulein Kost in Rufus Norris's Cabaret.
Yeah.
And you were obviously in the West End, Bow Down, and I did the first tour. And in this version, viewers, for those of you watching, it's she's a Nazi prostitute. So hey, you know, you don't kind of get worse than that.
No.
And she doesn't have a lot of singing on her own, but there's one moment in the play that's really, really chilling, because the light just goes straight onto her, and she betrays the lovely Jewish Herr Schultz by basically handing him to the Nazi party. And she sings that from the musical, of course, which everybody knows, with the young kind of Hitler Youth. It's a reprise of that, where she sings Tomorrow Belongs to Me. And we were like 8 months in, so I knew it like the back of my hand.
Of course.
And the lights went down, they hit me, and I went, the sun on the meadow is summery warm. Nothing. And I just remember thinking, I was like, I don't. And they were holding the note, and God knows what I came up with. But it scanned. But I remember the MD going, looking up from the pit, like, what?
I know.
But for about 4 months after that, I was terrified. Every time we'd get to that part of the show, I'd be like, oh my God, what are the words? What are the words? What are the words? Oh, there it is. You know?
I know. It's the crazy thing that we do to ourselves. But it's interesting, again, about thinking about all those women. You know, we're playing people. You know, the funny thing is, you think she's an evil woman, she's a prostitute. Nobody dreams, oh, I know what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a prostitute. You either fall there or you climb there.
Exactly.
Either way. And her reason for doing that is because suddenly she had an opportunity for somebody to be lower than her.
Yeah.
And there's a compassion in that. I remember thinking, playing Mrs. Lovett and Madame Thénardier, these women are broken people.
Mm-hmm.
Why does she allow Sweeney, Mrs. Lovett, why does she allow him to bake people into her pies? Because she loves him. Because she loves him. And I decided she prayed to God to bring back Sweeney, and then he walks in the door one day, done. Then it means her prayers are answered. So anything he says is okay. So you don't play that, but making those choices and knowing that a lot of them are comedy turns, but with all comedy, it's pain. It's not about being funny. It's about the pain of what somebody's doing to cope. And that's what makes us laugh. But you don't show it, but you know it. And that gives you the timing.
It has to have that pathos, you know. And again, I mean, you did that brilliantly again in British, because British has these moments, and Abfab, British I think more so real moments of farce. But so extraordinary, normal people where extraordinary things are happening to them. Yeah. And all of you played it straight. You weren't like, here's the joke, because there's nothing worse than that. And we're jumping all over. My notes have gone to shit. Anyway, never mind.
Who cares, darling?
Bring on the next one. We're going to get very serious now and talk about the National Theatre.
Oh, yeah.
Because the National is sort of the pinnacle, I think, of every actor who comes here, whether you are British or not. And it's one of those really ugly buildings, it has to be said. But every time I'm on the bus going across Waterloo Bridge, I'm like, one day I will work in you.
Yes, absolutely.
And you had, my God, what a season. So one of your first plays there was Pravda, which was co-written by David Hare and Howard Brenton and directed by David Hare. Richard Hare
and David Hare there were 6 companies in the building, and I was in the Richard Hare, David Hare, can't speak.
No.
Haven't even had a Bailey's, darling. I don't know why. It's mad. Haven't even had a drink. The David Hare, Richard Hare company, and Ian McKellen had his own company, and we did The Government Inspector was our first show, with Rick Mail playing the Government Inspector, and then we did Pravda. And we did a whole load of amazing plays, and it was the most glorious time again. And I was 24, 25, I think, and I was understudy. I had my own roles, and then I was also understudy. And an extraordinary thing happened. Every person who I understudied had to go to hospital, and I had to take over. extraordinary.
We need to talk more about that.
Yeah, I didn't grease the stairs or anything. They just, no. But seriously, that happened.
I didn't push them very hard.
No, it just fell. No, but it was one of those things. So I took over from Miranda Foster in Government Inspector, and Kate Buffrey was playing, oh God, what is it, in Hamlet, Gertrude.
Yeah.
And on the first night, opening in what was then the Cottesloe, it was now the Dorfman, I went on, I was in a different company at that point, doing a different play. And I went on as Gertrude with the book on the first night. Got a lovely review. Thank you very much.
Oh,
but
yes.
with Tim McInerney was playing Hamlet. And again, it was the most extraordinary experience, because I thought to myself, I'm so terrified, and I had very few sort of hours notice.
Yeah.
At 6 o'clock, we blocked me coming in, but I'd seen it several times, different productions that year, and I thought, oh, if ever I get to play Gertrude, I want to do this, that, and the other. And then suddenly I was freed on that moment of going on the first night with the book to save the show, because it wasn't my performance. I was there and I was free. And so that liberation took all the pressure off, and it was the most exhilarating experience I've ever had. And I'd known Anthony Hopkins actually in Pravda. I'd known him since I was a young child.
He played the lead, didn't he?
He did, absolutely. That's right. And Bill Nye, and it was an amazing cast. And again, Kate and Tim were both in it as well, being absolutely amazing. And I'd known him since I was a kid. So it was amazing. We used to have Corpse on stage all the time. There was a bit more on a sort of big newspaper station, and he'd always come and make me laugh. It was amazing. But also, I was lucky enough to then do Great Britain, which was another newspaper expose, directed by Nick Heitner. And it was Richard Bean's new play, which we rehearsed kind of secretly.
I saw you in that before I knew you.
Darling.
Yes, I was like, but he's so good.
But, okay, I'll pay you later. Fabulous, keep going. But to do those two plays sort of 30 years apart, about the media industry, was such an honour and such an amazing sort of full circle. But going back to the early times, just to be in those young companies where, again, you understudied, you got an opportunity. But don't you think, doing musical theatre, often in theatre, understudies rarely go on unless something bizarre happens. But in musical theatre, you have a first cover and a second cover, and you know you're going to go on. It's the only place where people actually get to move up logically in their career by understudying, and you know a month of the year you're going to be working and doing the lead role that you understudy. And you don't get that in any other profession, and there's no rep anymore. So where's the opportunity to do that? That's why musical theatre is so wonderful. It gives you a chance to move on up.
Yeah. And funny enough, so you're so right. When I first got to the UK and I auditioned for Mamma Mia, and they said to me, well, you can be in the ensemble. And I was kind of like, what? I'm a Tanya, can't you tell? And it was so bizarre. In that first sort of like 3 months, the woman playing Tanya did fall. And I was right behind her. And I do remember everybody looking at me like, but I was very lucky that after 3 months, I got to take over the role, and that was that. And the rest of the run, I was Tanya,
Did you push her?
I'll tell you later.
No, we ought to start a club.
You've also done amazing work at Regent's Park, which for anyone who is not from the United Kingdom, it's a beautiful outdoor amphitheatre. However, living in the UK, we do not often have summers like we are currently having. It is usually can be Arctic. I mean, I've been there. We went to see Evita a year ago, and I remember it was so cold. We went to the press night. Oh, I saw you.
Yeah, I was there.
Anyway,
yeah, we were there.
And that the rain. Do you remember? And everyone was freezing. The rain sort of started coming down right at the end.
But darling, we keep going.
Exactly, you have to. Well, at that stage.
Yeah.
But what was the Regent's Park experience like?
I have had the most life-changing experiences there, because it is the most extraordinary thing to see each other, as in the audience and the performers. You see each other, absolutely. There's no, lights down, curtain up, none of that. You're there and you're together. And nothing is ever the same. You know, pretty much if you're in Wicked or Mamma Mia or whatever, it's the same show every night. But in the park, a bird will suddenly fly through, a leaf will flutter down, you know, a fox will appear at the side of the stage. It's never the same. And as you said, there's often thunder and lightning, the odd helicopter. But again, it bonds you. When there's that rain, you share it with the audience. And if you survive it and you don't get rained off, and they're on top of it all the time with the weather info, then you applaud each other for being there. And you see each other in the beginning, as I said. And then as night falls, even in the summer nights, gradually the audience disappear and we're illuminated. And there's just the dark out there. But again, you're sharing everything. And it's an experience unlike anything other. And Tim Sheeder has totally transformed that part, the shows that he does, the musicals, the way he reinvents things.
Yeah.
And it's, because it used to be when I was a little girl, just you go and you'd see your Shakespeare, Midsummer Night's Dream, which I did, as we said. And that's where but now it's more of an experience because of the drama, the operas, everything that he puts on there is so extraordinary, revolutionized.
And everything seems to transfer to the West End.
Yeah.
Speaking of Shakespeare, do you find, have you ever found the language daunting, or do you revel in it?
I think there's certain things, like certain composers, like Sondheim, you're never going to be better than that text.
Yeah.
And Shakespeare, you will never be better than the writing, and therefore it stretches you all the time. It's the most wonderful thing. It is scary, but it's also so beautiful, and the resonance, it just is. It's an amazing thing to do. Amazing. Like when you sing something extraordinary by a brilliant composer, lyricist, you will never be better, no matter how good you are, than that text.
And there is something absolutely sort of jaw-droppingly extraordinary when you are a performer and it doesn't happen very often with me with singing, but when you have those moments where everything works, because I'm an actor who sings, I was never trained to sing.
Same. Me neither.
So
never.
I work very organically and instinctively. So it doesn't always come out perfectly. Sometimes it's like, but I don't, for me as an audience member, I don't care. I'd rather watch somebody whose voice cracks and who moves me, and I end up either being elated or devastated.
Yeah,
but who moves
because of it, absolutely.
But when you have those moments as a performer where somehow it just magically all works, it's just the most. There is nothing else. I suppose it's our,
that's it.
Our heroine.
Absolutely.
Very bad analogy.
We should all be in a home. It's not normal what we do, darling. It's not normal. We get on stage for the clapping, and I know it's art, but we also like the applause, because then for one moment, for one more day, you are good enough. Yeah. And then the madness starts the next day. I have to prove myself.
Absolutely.
To validate my being here. But I'm about to start rehearsal tomorrow for Sleepless.
Yes, so quickly talk to us about Sleepless in Seattle. An adaptation, obviously, of the wonderful film. Who do you play?
I play Kimberly Walsh, who's playing the lead. I play her mother. And it's the most glorious thing. We were 3 days before our first preview when we got locked down. Wow. So it was very bizarre, and it's been a long time, and we're going in tomorrow, first day, and we're tested every day for COVID, and it's going to be a very unique experience because we can't cross-pollinate. We have to be in our bubbles. It's going to be a fascinating experience. And I think they're doing everything, and it's not a theatre. It used to be a film studio where they, shot Britain's Got Talent and things, or X Factor, I think. And so it's a vast space. So the sort of distancing is easy. Everyone's going to be shown to their seats, and it's there's a kind of way round that you walk and everything. But it's anxious making because it's a new thing, and we've never worked like this before.
No, I know, and I was going to ask you actually how you felt about going back to work, because for us, obviously you want everyone to be safe, but I was reading Beverly Knight actually did a really brilliant thing here on Instagram about her. Andrew Lloyd Webber
yes.
had done a sort of trial to see how it was.
Yes.
And she told it from her perspective about
Yes.
how she could hear the audience coming in, but there was no contact backstage, and they were anti-backed and cleaned and sanitized and things. And she said, but then she walked on stage, and although it was great to see the audience, it looked really empty because, of course, it wasn't, they'd purposely spread everybody out.
Yeah.
But also, everyone had masks on.
I know.
And so she said, you can't see if people are going, oh.
I know.
There's just this, and that's so difficult.
It is so bizarre. It is, but again, it's an interesting thing because I've certainly been in big theatres where 2 men and a dog have turned up and there's no audience. So we're used to the, we're used to sometimes houses not being full. Mm-hmm. And again, it's, you have to just trust it and be in the moment and play that moment, which she did. She's brilliant. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting experience. And I'm so grateful to work. And I think a lot of people think, oh, all these actors, you know, they do. No, we're working, you know, jobbing people. Mm-hmm. And having not earned a penny is very bizarre and strange and scary. Yeah. So I'm so grateful to work, to have purpose, and to earn a few pennies back, because it's been 6 months with nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And also what people don't often understand, I've had lots of people say to me, well, just do something else. And I'm like, well, you know, acting is actually a skill, and people go to drama school, you spend 4 years of your life doing that, and then you know, you carve a career, and it's such a brutal, difficult profession anyway. And also most actors, when they're not acting, are working in restaurants or cafes. Always. In the hospitality trade. There isn't that at the moment. So, you know, the fact that actors are actually showing up and being positive, I think, is frankly bloody remarkable. I'm looking at the time and
realize that. How long have we got?
So I wanted to just quickly get back to television and talk about French and Saunders for a minute.
Yes, absolutely.
Are they as much fun to work with as we would all imagine?
100% yes. Absolutely brilliant.
You have been in every single French and Saunders show or special, or basically everything from the start. I've
normally done a sketch or two, you know, but I've been so lucky. And we did the sort of ones that I adored were the pastiche of a chorus line, which was heaven. We did a thing called Nobody Knows What the Hell Is Going On, which is actresses who are sort of talking and gossiping in the dressing room, which I talked to them about because I was at the National at the time. It was that sort of era. And amazingly, Nick Heitner is the director who comes in, and we're all 40 years younger than we are now. But, you know, it was amazing. It's amazing. And then he took over the National Theatre later. And, you know, it's just, there's hysterical sketches. And I'm so honoured to have been part of that, you know, because it's such fun. Oh, but also in lockdown, as we said, we're doing different things, and you're lucky because you have the bakery, don't you?
Well, I mean, I'm not there that much anymore. No. We've had to really adapt stuff with the bakery as well, you know, because we haven't been able. The shop is quite narrow at the back, so we haven't been able to have more than one baker on at a time, which obviously limits the amount of bread that you can produce, the range that you can produce. But we're getting there, and you know, our customers have been remarkable, and you know, my husband has been incredible. He's been a kind of ahead of the curve, I think. Yes,
brilliant. All your imagery on Insta, I just want to unhinge my jaw and shove everything in my face. But I
tried that for about 3 years when we were building the bakery, and then woke up one day and went, oh, I don't fit into any of my clothes. I don't understand why. So I don't eat it anymore.
But that thing of just doing something and having purpose. As you know, I've started doing a show called The Wonderbirds, which is on YouTube and Facebook, 4:30 on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then on a Saturday morning. And it's for, I'm going to use the word mature ladies, myself, Sherry Hewson, Dee Anderson, and Debbie Arnold, just shooting the breeze, having a chat when you have to come on, by the way, just saying.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And it's just saying it's not a political thing. It's just talking about what it's like to be where we're at today, and having all pals and friends and, you know, amazing people come on like you and chat and say what's happening, and having a laugh and being together and being there for each other. Because in this bizarre time, that is all that matters. And that sense of community that we now have in the streets where we live is extraordinary. You know, that suddenly I was driving along the other day and I thought, oh, this road looks different. And I thought, it looks different because I haven't stopped to look at it. I've just been getting somewhere and doing something. I've got to get to rehearsal. I've got to go shopping. I don't see anything because I'm too busy. And now I have a chance to see things. And it makes such a difference. And I know, yeah, completely. And I think the only thing that's good about this is what it brings us as a community together. And all those things, issues that have come up, is to be there for each other and not, you know, having this madness that we live in most of the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely beautifully put. And I was going to say, sort of referring to my notes earlier, I was thinking from the moment I met you, which we met doing the 20th anniversary of Mamma Mia, which wasn't that the most amazing night?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, again.
And what did they call us, darling? What did they call us? Heritage
Dynamos.
Heritage? What are you talking about? We're ever useful.
I know. We were all like, heritage? We sound like tomatoes. I was like, no.
Seriously. Or some old castle somewhere. It's heaven.
Exactly. None of that. But what an amazing night that was. But something that struck me from the moment I actually met you, because of course I've followed your career and been a huge fan from afar, is your joie de vivre, your genuine joy, and you're so you have such largesse and warmth, and that genuinely, I mean, I know I'm sounding like I'm like, but I genuinely mean that.
No, but thank you.
And I wondered if this quality of yours has been something that has come as you've grown older, or if you've always been like that, this wonderful, because you're curious about life, and, you know, not even a pandemic slowed you down. As you said, you started this talk show, you've got a sitcom on BBC iPlayer, you're doing another musical. I mean,
I'm on TikTok, darling. I'm on bloody TikTok.
I know, I've watched your,
I mean, WTF? Who knew? And you know, the age range for TikTok is something like 15 to 17. Thrilled. That's the demographic.
And what made you decide to do TikTok? Because I just thought, oh God, it's another app I have to like install on my phone and look after.
Because it's instant. You know, we don't have reps. We don't have any power, but we have this. The fact that we are talking now like this is the most moving, wonderful experience. We have this, you know, the social media gives us a freedom. People don't have to wait to be asked to do a show. You can do your own. And, you know, we have that power. And I think to be creative, and we need to be creative, then I'm going to do it.
I love that. Somebody's asking, what is your username on TikTok?
Hatdorable.
Hatdorable. So yes, I'll put it up when we're done.
Thank you.
Getting back to musicals for a minute, because we've just sort of gone all around the houses.
I know, sorry,
You've done some of these iconic roles. And of course, one of the ones we haven't touched on just yet was Madame Morrible in Wicked. Yes, and those costumes. Oh,
darling, the most, literally, I think I was I was the third Morrible in, I think, in about a year and a half. I think Miriam did 6 months, and then and Sue did another year, and then I came in after that.
Yeah.
So I was like third in, a year and a half in, and I was there for 2 years, and it was the most glorious experience, because the attention to detail, the quality on every level was so extraordinary. And the privilege of being in a show that is a 3,000 seater that's sold out every night.
Every night.
Who gets to do every night? Who gets to do that? And then I went back for another 6 months to fill in, you know, for somebody. And it was, again, I was so grateful. And you understand why people stay in shows for so long, because you have your nighttime family.
Yeah.
You have, you know, yes, we have the wonderful moment of being on stage, playing these wonderful characters. And then you have Coffee Corner, where you're chatting and catching up with the dramas of the day from everyone else. It was the most wonderful thing. I mean, the quality of the show is just extraordinary. The wigs, the costumes, you know, just to have that, it was so wonderful. And
Yeah,
so
it's such
so
a
fun.
great show. I mean, I remember seeing it for the first time. I think we saw the original company in London, and my mum flew
Yeah.
out from South Africa, and both of us. I mean,
Oh
like that
wow.
Act One ending with Defying Gravity. I was just like, I'm done. Yeah, stick a
I know.
fork in me. I'm done.
I know. Sobbing. I know. It is faultless, and the fact that it has that humour, and whether you're 9 or you're 90, you get it, because all
Yeah,
of us feel we're never good enough, and all of us are trying to be good and do the right thing, and it's so moving. We all feel we have, you know, the things that don't make us perfect, and yet this person rises up and says, no, I'm not going to feel bad anymore.
yeah,
And it's
and
inspirational.
isn't Wicked after all that.
No,
I'm
no.
going to whip through some questions very
Yes,
quickly.
darling.
Do you have a favorite musical role that you've played?
I was lucky enough, and thank you to Tracy Bennett and Nick Winston and the wonderful boys at the Hope Mill. I played Vera in Mame last
Ah,
year.
yes.
And again, that was a kind of culmination of playing more crazy ladies, all humour. And I could not have enjoyed myself or been more fulfilled. And working with Tracy was a dream, and Nick Winston and the entire cast, just heaven. And at that extraordinary Hope Mill Theatre, which is
Yeah,
the only fringe venue in Manchester. And I mean,
amazing.
what those boys have created is extraordinary.
I was so gutted I missed it. I was filming in Scotland, otherwise I would have been there.
So rude of you to be filming. How dare you?
I know, so
I mean,
rude.
did you not have it in your contract? Really?
I have to go. I have to go see Mame now. Bring in the naked boys to take me. Sorry. Somebody said they think that you'd be brilliant in Doctor Who. Would you like to do a sci-fi?
Yes, of course. I say yes to everything.
Yes, 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 yes. So any producers watching, yes. I saw you as Madame Horrible, and you were fantastic. She's so evil. Did you enjoy playing her?
Yes, I did. And she's the only person who is really wicked. And she has her comeuppance, and that's funny too. So it's win-win.
Were you and Suanne in Mamma Mia together? If not, can you please do a musical together?
Absolutely, we should. But we played the same role, so we're a bit caught, really.
I know. Well, we could think of something. We could do
Yeah,
something where we're the same person. We're twins.
Yes, dear.
Have you ever done a one-person show? And if not, would you like to?
The answer is no, I haven't, and yes, I would.
I think that's got to be what's next, because that is my final question. Oh, there's one more, and then I have a final question.
Yes, darling.
What was it like working with Merchant Ivory on Maurice?
That was the most, again, moving, extraordinary experience. To be in something that's kind of that, as a brand, and the quality of the films that he made was so extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And again, to play a terrible barmaid, you know, who dobbed somebody in for being gay, again,
Yeah.
evil. It was just such an honour to be part of that film, because it was so beautiful.
Well, it has been an honour to have you on Hathor Hosts. It really has.
Thank you,
have
darling.
loved this, and if there
But the
wasn't
honour
an
is all
hour's cut
mine.
off. I wanted to know one last thing before
Yes,
I let you go.
Yes.
You have done so many wonderful things. Is there a role that you haven't done yet that you relishing and just really, really want?
Whatever the next thing is.
Say
Because
yes to
again,
everything.
well, I think I say yes to everything. And the most important thing that gets me through everything is to go where you're wanted, not where you want.
Yes.
Because it's not about that. Go where you're wanted. And the best things will happen because of that.
Fantastic. So guys, the wonderful Harriet Thorpe. We didn't even really touch on AbFab as much as I wanted to because there's not enough time. We'll have to do a part 2 to just AbFab and Fleur.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harriet, for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I can't wait till we can actually see each other and have a cocktail together and give each other a hug.
A cocktail and a croissant, please.
Done. Done and done. And break a leg tomorrow for first day of rehearsals.
Copy that. All love to you. Thank you, darling.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. I'll see you guys next week back here on Instagram. Mwah. See you all. Have a lovely evening or afternoon or morning. Bye.